Brad, it is episode 150 of the Thompson to Clark podcast. And in honor of our 150th podcast, we named the cocktail, the tequila cocktail.
Yes.
You've been drinking. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But if you go to our Twitter page at BSPN Media and our Instagram page at BSPN_media. Actually, sorry, BSPN Media is one of our Twitter pages, but at Thompson, the number 2 Clark is our Giants Twitter page. The recipe is up. We posted that on our social media channels earlier today, so you can check it out, and maybe one day we'll have a drink for everybody on this day. The T to C is what we're calling it. So
yes.
Before we get to that, I guess we have to talk about some of the news, and we'll save the Mexico City stuff for in a little bit, because while it was a terrible 2-game sort of fake road trip, there was some fun stuff that they did. As you can see, if you're watching on video, you can see the photo of Alyssa Nacken doing a sort of high crossbody off of the second rope onto whomever the masked luchador is.
It's a good thing you know the names of these moves, because I just see them jumping off of ropes and slamming into each other. I don't know what it's called, but I'm glad you do.
The funny story about that is, I guess they told the players, they made sure the players were aware that they could not do anything physical in the wrestling ring. But Alyssa Nacken is like, that's not in my contract. She's a coach. And so she went on to the second rope and did a dive onto the masked wrestler in the Giants jersey. And he caught her, and then he went down. And she said, I forgot I was reading, maybe it's Baggs' article. She said that she didn't think she got caught very well. And I'm like, this man caught you in midair and just fell backwards, so it looked like you hit him with something. So,
and he's wearing a Giants jersey too.
Yeah.
You see that? You see the back there, the orange there. Look at those triceps. She's
she's pretty
telling
jacked.
you, man. Jeez. She's got her arm is as big as my thigh.
I mean, she's hitting fungos all day long, I guess.
That's right, man.
All right, latest news about our team. And as Brad and I are talking, at least the live version of this video podcast, the Giants are on the television right now. It's the boss, Ross Stripling, is on the mound. Usually that means fireworks for the other team, but hopefully he keep the ball in the ballpark today. So Giants and Astros are on, and we'll kind of keep a lookout on the game as it is going, and we're recording.
I forgot to punch that up, man. The problem is, so for some reason, the iMac, Google Chrome, does not like. Oh, there we go. See, I could get it on my phone. It doesn't like my DirecTV. Anytime I go to watch live TV, it doesn't like it.
Oh, really?
So if I punch up the NBC Bay Area app, I can do that. But then the problem is I'm like 8 hours behind you. So then you're like, oh, there's a bomb, and 3 pitches later, I see the home run. So I have to use my phone and the DirecTV app, and then we're synced up really, really close. So that works good. Yeah.
So did you see Blake Sabol throw the ball into center field?
I did, and I think they might give him a third base here. I think they're calling time to take a look at this, because it looks like maybe Tyro kind of punched him around a little bit while he was at second. Nope, actually they're going to.
No, they went to the pitch.
There really wasn't any contact, so
yeah. All right, so what is the latest news about Giants baseball here? Well, it's not great, but it's probably better than our worst worry, which is if you saw the game last night, you noticed that Yaz came up lame, and I think the worst fear was a hamstring pull or strain, or something that was going to hold him out for a decent stretch of time. And when they looked at it today, it looks like it is a whatever the lowest grade is for the hamstring. That was his injury. So it looks like he won't be out too long. He only went on the 10-day DL, and he could possibly be back sooner than later. So that is good news. They also put Brandon Crawford on the injured list, and you know you're an old guy when you hit 2 bombs in like back-to-back pitches and only one counted. They called the other one foul. And that is the same game where you have to come out because of some sort of funky injury. So Beecrow's on the old list and he got hurt too. He said if this was like slow pitch softball, he could have played because couldn't run really. Like that was the problem. He just couldn't run. So if a pinch runner for him, then maybe he swings and then there's like a runner on the like 5 feet from him kind of waiting and running.
What's that called? Slosh ball, where you have a keg at second base. And then when you get to second, you have to stop and take a drink before you continue on. That's what B-Craw could be playing pretty soon, man.
Yeah. So looks like he's on the 10-day as well. So who do the Giants bring up? Well, Brett Wisely is back up with the team. We told you at the beginning of the season, he is going to be the guy who's going to be up and down and up and down and up and down all season long. And a guy that they got in a trade just recently for Sammy Long by the name of Cal Stevenson. I first noticed Cal Stevenson was on the Giants because of the show, the MLB The Show. And it's because I got a card of his and I was like, who's Cal Stevenson?
What in the world?
And then I saw that he came up today. So he came in the trade. I didn't even know that there was a player coming back in the trade. It was future consideration. So he was the future considerations. He's a 26-year-old minor leaguer. He was hitting 350 in Sacramento for the A's. And then, or not in Sacramento. Where are the A's?
Las Vegas.
Yeah. And then when he got traded, he's been hitting about 260 for Sacramento. And so he's their, I guess he's their center fielder at this point because Yaz was their only center fielder with Bryce Johnson on the injured list.
Yeah. Quick note on the Las Vegas, used to be the Las Vegas Area 51s. Now they're the Las Vegas Pilots, I think. No, Aviators. Anyways, I was reading an article. Being here in Nevada, I subscribe to a couple of newsletters. One of them is the Nevada Independent, and they were talking about the A's moving to Vegas. And everybody seems to think, the governor, Major League Baseball, everybody seems to think that Las Vegas can handle both. Major League team and the Oakland A's and the Las Vegas A's is what they'll be, and the AAA team, the Las Vegas Aviators. If you look at the map of where they want to build that stadium, it is literally 5 miles from each other.
Oh, wow.
So if you need to call somebody up in the middle of a game and that player is playing in another game, they just walk over to the stadium and make it in time. So I thought that was interesting that they think that they can handle both AAA and Major League Baseball. It is a tourist town, so it is kind of odd. But anyways.
But also I read that the A's lease with Oakland ends like 2 years before they'll be able to even possibly get a stadium built. So they'll have to play in that park for a couple years, right?
Yeah, they'll have to work it out somehow. They could play San Jose Municipal Stadium. I mean, they're going to have to find a home for a couple of years. And yeah, they talked about that. But the problem is if they do that, where is the AAA team going to play unless they're playing a game in the morning and a game at night? But it could be a mess. So I think they talked about possibly staying in Oakland at the Coliseum for a couple of years, but I think Oakland's going to have some bad feelings about that. So I don't know if that's going to happen.
Yeah, and there's still, and this is not turned into an A's podcast, but there's still a lack of faith that Oakland, that the current owner, Fisher and Dave Cavall, who every time I mention Dave Cavall's name, I have to also mention that I have hung out with Dave Cavall
yes, you have.
For a few hours. He was a nice guy, but he trolls the hell out of A's fans, man.
Yeah, he does.
But there's talk like that. There's still kind of a lack of faith that these guys can actually get the job done. And you know, the idea of them pushing that information out this early, people are like, I'm not so sure about that. You know, you guys, this is part of the playbook. You guys announce plans and then they never come through. So we'll see what happens there. I feel bad for Oakland. I feel the city of Oakland, though, if you can lose the Raiders and the Warriors can go across the bay, and you guys go, you know what? So what? Like we want to work on our city. Like these sports teams are great, but if they don't really help us, and if it's really a one-sided deal here, then so be it. Like we're gonna just do our thing.
Yeah.
And I kind of like that. Like I like that mentality of like, look, the Raiders were always looking to leave. The A's have been a laughing stock for the last 10 years. Go. Like we'll be fine. That's kind of a power move there.
It is. And the ultimate slap in the face would be if, 4 or 5 years after the A's moved to Vegas, Oakland was awarded an expansion team and built a beautiful ballpark down by the water and got a
Yeah.
team with an owner who, you know, cares and wants to build a team for Oakland. I mean, Oakland San Francisco rivalry is a really, really awesome, fun rivalry. And to lose that is really going to suck. I mean, the Giants are going to have fun heading down to Vegas for some games. I don't know if they're still going to be the rivals because at that point, the A's are going to be much closer to the Diamondbacks and much closer to the Dodgers and the Angels than they will to San Francisco. It's from San Francisco, I don't know how long of a drive or how far, but here from Reno, it's 7 hours.
Yeah, I
6:45,
think
7
it's
hours.
gosh, I've done this drive once, but only once, the Vegas drive. Was it like 10 hours? I don't remember.
It's
But
got to be
it's
about 10. Yeah.
yeah, it's also a 50-minute flight, right? To go out there.
Right.
So
Exactly.
and here's the thing about the rivalry. Well, we got to see 49ers Raiders who were in Las Vegas last year. It was pretty hyped.
Yeah.
The Raiders fans, I think, are still trying to follow the Vegas Raiders as much as they can. And it was just as fun to beat the Raiders as it ever was to me, man, because
Oh, yeah.
there's still Raiders fans who were following this team, you know.
Well, and Vegas is a destination. I mean, so if you and I were sitting here and the A's moved to Vegas and the Giants were playing 3 games in July, you and I might go, "Hey, let's fly down there and meet up and we'll go to 3 games while we're down there and hang out." It's Vegas. You're going to go to some shows, you're going to get some good food. I mean, it's a fun place to hang out
I
still.
will say that it better be an indoor stadium to go in
It
July.
has to be. We, you know what? We go once a year to Vegas. We've got a little timeshare down there, so we swap it around. So we're staying at a different place this time, but we're going for my 50th this year, and we're going in July. And it's like you could have days easily in July where it's 115
Oh
degrees,
yeah.
no problem, zero wind. It's hot. It's the desert. You're up a little bit still. I mean, you're up about 3,000 feet,
Yeah.
3,500 feet, but it is hot and there's no shade unless you get the good artificial shade. So everybody wants to hang out
Yeah.
inside the casino. So yeah, they have to build an indoor stadium.
Yeah. All right. So what else is going on with Giants baseball here? Well, the week that was started out really awesome.
Yeah.
And the Giants took 3 out of 4 from the Cardinals. And it was like, now I know the Cardinals fans will say, yeah, well, we're only off to our worst start in the history of our franchise.
Yeah.
I think they're 10-19 at this point. But the Giants took 3 out of 4. They were home. They got a real 9-inning shutout from Alex Cobb. They kind of lost the last game of the series. It just kind of got away from them, but it didn't seem like it was that bad of a game until the end. But they played some really good baseball. And I was kind of like, wow, 5-game winning streak. What does that feel like? And then they had to go to Mexico City.
Yeah.
And Mexico City was was very rough. But we'll save the Mexico City talk for a second. But just before that, what'd you think of that St. Louis series? Did you feel like, they're putting some things together here?
Yeah, that was good. St. Louis came in limping also. They're having some really bad defensive problems. They've got some guys that can hit, but they're in a situation that we were last year where it's like, hey, we have these guys that can hit, but they don't have natural positions. So they have to just kind of throw them out there. Tyler O'Neill, Trying to think of the other kid who played right field. Just rough to watch. Wilson Contreras, decent catcher, but not the greatest catcher. So he has defensive issues. They booted the ball around. They kicked it around. They were coming in. The fans are angry at the Cardinals right now because they thought this is the Cardinals' year. Last year, they kind of, fought and scraped, got into the playoffs. And they thought, well, we built. And then this year, Molina was hurt a lot last year, and then he retired. So they got Contreras. So they thought, hey, we can boost this thing up, and we have hitters, but they have no defense. And that's kind of the problem, other than, they've got platinum glove winner Nolan Arenado at third, but he's just not hitting right now. And Goldschmidt's really kind of just starting to come to life. So I thought it was a perfect opportunity for the Giants to get some wins. I didn't think they'd take 3 out of 4. I thought if we could split 2-2 like we did with the Mets, I thought, oh man, that's going to be awesome. We can get out of that. We could show the Mets, we could show the Cardinals that, we can kind of hang with them. But to take the first 3 games was fantastic. Then to lay that gigantic shutout egg. Did they get shut out in the last game? It's like 5-0,
6-0, I believe,
or 6-0. That was kind of an ugly way to end it, but I thought it was a fantastic series, and I thought that was going to give us some good momentum going into Mexico City, and it did for a little bit. I mean, the Giants jumped out to some good leads in both of the games, but again, we'll talk about that later. But I thought it was going to be some nice momentum, but it just kind of, at home, you have to win a series.
Yeah. And
so to beat the Cardinals, I thought that was pretty huge.
All right, let's move on to Player of the Week.
All right, Player of the Week. We put 3 up there again this week. Oh man, I had it up and now it's gone. And then there it is. Found it again. Or did I? No, I didn't. Come on now. I don't know what's going on here. All right, I'm just gonna hop over to our page, punch that, and then I should get it. All right, so I put up 3 players. This week we had, you know what? The player that you and I both voted for, we thought should have won.
Yeah.
So I'm a little disappointed, but we're going to go through it. Lamont Wade Jr. came in 3rd place. Had a nice week of 549 WOBA, 3 home runs, 4 runs, 4 RBI. Played some good defense. Played some solid defense at first base. He's kind of starting to heat up a little bit. A guy who can also play the outfield. So I think if I know they're bringing up Cal Stevenson to kind of take Yaz's spot as a left-handed outfielder, but if you need to stick Wade Jr. out there, you certainly could. You can have another left-handed outfielder out there as well. Is this the time we start to see Jock at first base? I don't know. Maybe. I mean, if we need to load that lineup with lefties, there's a good possibility. Coming in 2nd place, our pick. We both picked him. Alex Cobb. He had 2 starts this week, 1 complete game shutout, and that's why we gave it to him. We thought that's a rarity. That's a unicorn in this game now, the complete game shutout. He did give up 13 hits in 14 innings this week, 3 earnies, 1 walk, and 11 strikeouts. It kind of limited the damage on the base paths. Had a really good start yesterday in Mexico City. Ball was flying out of the yard on Saturday, but yesterday he kind of kept it in, started getting a little back tweak. But he did his best, made 1 mistake pitch. Things like that happen. And they were still in the ball game though when he left. So but coming into 1st place, the great Blake Sable. Superman with those Superman specs, those Clark Kent specs that he wears. Is that a bomb? Nope.
No, it's a
foul
foul
in the
ball.
corner. All right. 452 WOBA for Sable, 2 home runs, 5 runs, 4 ribs, a stolen base, and the walk-off home run in the game against the Mets. It split the series. So this week's Player of the Week is the great Blake Sable. He's a guy I was high on from the beginning. I know his defense is but and especially a catcher, that's going to really kind of show if you're a catcher and you have rough defense. But I think he's coming around. He's commanding some games. He's doing a good job. So got to give it to Blake.
Okay, can we talk about that? Was it the opener against the Cardinals? Is that when he hit that the walk-off?
No, that was against the Mets. That was
No,
against the Mets.
it was against Cardinals.
Was it against
It
Cardinals?
was against Cardinals.
All right.
Because the Mets ended Sunday night, and I remember because
yeah.
we were kind of chatting, and it was late on one of the weekdays. So what day was this? This
You're
would have
right.
been
April 26th.
yeah.
Tuesday
So that was was that Tuesday? Oh, Wednesday? No,
Yeah.
no. 25th. 25th. It was Tuesday night, the 25th.
Tuesday night.
So this game, Giants are down 4-3. And it's one of those games where they had the lead, and this has been kind of the story of the season. They're up 2-1, and then we get to the 8th inning. And in the 8th inning, the Cardinals score 3 runs. So it goes, let me see if I can figure out how they scored. So Carlson singles, then DeJong singles, then Edman grounds out, and then Tyler O'Neill doubles, 2 runners score, Goldschmidt singles, another run scores. And I think this was like the laser beam to Lamont, or to past Crawford that scored. So now it's 4-2.
Yeah.
And so you're going into the 9th inning, and it's just kind of like, well, Hensley is in 4-2. Do we really have a shot? I didn't think, the only thought I had was, if they can time this fastball, maybe they could put the ball in the air a little bit. But I didn't think that they were going to score 3 runs to win this game. So Yastrzemski doubles, and Jock Peterson was on first. I forget, he may have walked or something. Or no, he hit a laser that like one hopped their second baseman, I think. So Jock was on first. Then Yastrzemski hits a drive, and it kind of faked Kipe out a little bit, because he did one of his, hits a drive like he did. It was kind of got like the bass and the voice of like, uh-oh. And I looked at the outfielder, and I was like, okay, this is not a home run. But he doubles, and Jock goes all the way from first to home. He's done that a couple times recently. So good for him. We've been kind of on him about his training regimen, but hey man, he's able to score first from first on a double 2 games in the last couple weeks. So he's got to be in some decent shape. So runner on second, and then Tyro pops up, and then Brandon Crawford just none chance, like just had no chance. So that leaves it up to Blake Sable, and he was really dialed in. Like, you're kind of thinking like, they did a good job, but the young rook, he's just going to get toyed with here. And I think it was a slider. He was talking about on the post game how he didn't really get a fastball all game long. So he's like, I wonder if that's the scouting report for me, is just to not throw me a fastball. So he's like, yeah, I'm always looking fastball, but in the back of my mind, I'm like, they're not throwing me fastballs. So Hensley drops the slider, and he just puts a boom on this pitch. And you and me, and I think Brian, we were all up. And within like 10 seconds, all of us were just like, OMG, home run. I can't believe it. And it was, it obviously it wasn't the same. This is not the NLCS, right? But my mind always goes back to Ishikawa, like, Ishikawa's home run. And so you see him rounding third, and he throws the helmet, and he's fired up. And I was like, man, what a great moment for him. And they needed it, right? Like that's kind of win that you could build some momentum off of. So I thought that was just such a fantastic come from behind victory.
Yeah, that was a good, 3 wins in a row. That, because at that we're thinking, okay, well, we won 2 in a row. That was fun. Or no, wait, that was win number 4, right? In the
streak, because they had taken 2 from the Mets, the last 2 from the Mets. Then they took the Monday game right after we recorded, and this would have been their Tuesday game.
Yeah, so I was sitting there thinking, oh, okay, cool, 3 wins in a row, cool. I mean, that's good, whatever. And then if we lose this one, we come back, we got 2 more in the series. But But it was amazing too, because he was just getting beat with that, back foot slider that he threw him twice. And so it was 0-2. I think it was 0-2 or 1-2. And then he threw the slider, just hung it in the zone. And I was like, oh, that's a mistake pitch. But I honestly, when he hit it off the bat, I thought maybe triples alley. I thought maybe, our luck this year, it's going to be a fantastic catch by the center fielder. It's going to be great. But man, what an absolute shot. And I felt so happy for him too, because Rule 5 guy, I'm really high on the guy. Everybody bashes on him, but his batting average isn't great. But I mean, that raw power, he's got raw power, and he's a big dude for a catcher. I'd like to see him play a little bit more outfield, but the Giants just don't have that luxury at catcher right now that they did in spring training. In spring training, they had like 5 catchers battling for 2 spots. Now they've got, one catcher holding it down in Joey Bart, and another kind of catcher as their second guy, and Gary Sanchez just get nothing going in AAA right now. So I wouldn't be shocked if he doesn't make it up, but I think at this point, I'd be less surprised if Patrick Bailey makes it to the majors before Gary Sanchez gets back there, because the Giants, did they promote Bailey?
Yeah, he's in AAA.
Yeah, so they promoted Bailey. So now those 2 guys are battling it out in Sacramento. So, it's just going to be a fun shot at catcher for Patrick Bailey. And then at that point, you can have Sable play a little bit more outfield, first base, DH, maybe, whatever you think you can do. But man, what an awesome game for that guy.
That is really the problem here. Is Blake Sable is a DH, and the Giants have 7 of them.
Exactly, and that's a problem. So you have to kind of, like the Cardinals, you got to find a position for him. Can he play first base? I don't know. I mean, we know he can play a little bit of outfield. He made a nice tumbling catch a couple of weeks ago, so he can be an outfielder. And right now the Giants are hurting in the outfield. So, but again, they don't have anybody who could be that second catcher right now. So you're kind of stuck, and you don't want to rush Bailey. His defense is phenomenal, but you don't want to rush the bat. You want to give him a little bit of time in AAA to see what he can do.
He is a switch hitter, though, which, the Giants like the opportunity, no matter what, to go lefty righty or righty lefty.
Yeah.
Okay, question for you. Who makes it to the big squad first between Casey Schmidt, Kyle Harrison, or Patrick Bailey?
That is probably going to be more out of necessity. It's going to probably be Patrick Bailey.
Interesting.
And again, it's just necessity. That's the position right now the Giants are absolutely hurting. There's no Austin Wynns. There's no Roberto Perez. You've got Ricardo Genovese. He had a shot at it last year, came up for a little bit. He was on the taxi squad, I think, this year, so he may get a shot at it again. Gary Sanchez just is not doing anything. He's hitting 164, which, again, for Gary Sanchez, that wouldn't be shocking. But in 60 at bats, he has no home runs, and that's what he's known as. Sorry, 55 at bats,
Jock,
no home runs.
By the way, Jock just killed a baseball into the right field seats. The Giants are up 2-1.
I'm right behind you. Now I just saw it. Yes, he did.
Jesus,
wow, that got out quick.
Yeah,
that was a Mexico City home run.
I
there,
know.
man. Jeez. Wow.
So when Crawford went down, I had a slight wonder if Casey Schmidt would come up, because they have had him play a little bit of shortstop, but some of the scouting, I forget who was the scouting report that said, yeah, he can play a little bit of shortstop, but really you're taking him away from third base is not the greatest idea because he's so good there. So, but that at least we have some intrigue with 3 guys who can probably play at the next level. And then if Patrick Bailey comes up, what does that say for Joe Bart, man? That's not great for Joe Bart.
Hey, you know what? Bailey and Bart, I think, can coexist on the Giants, two top picks. I think they can coexist. I mean, Bart Bart is a fantastic defensive catcher. He's starting to become a better defensive catcher than he has been. The problem is you go to Mexico City, he's got one shot in one game, and strikes out looking, strikes out at a slider. Just has a really, really tough game, and in a game where all you have to do is get the ball in the air, and he's got raw power.
Yeah.
So it's kind of hard to see him struggle offensively sometimes, but you never know. You bring up Bailey, and you get those two guys trading off behind the dish, and Bart sees that, and maybe it pushes him a little bit. So I think they can coexist for a year or two at least. I
just hope that Patrick Bailey coming up doesn't mean that they all of a sudden try and trade Bart, because that's kind of like a give up on him, and I don't want to give up on him.
No. I would hope not. I would think if they bring up Bailey, it's because they're in a situation where it's like, well, we don't have anybody else, and we can't hang with Sable behind the plate anymore. But we still want him on the roster. I think Sable will stay also. But I think if you bring up Bailey, it's because you have to have two catchers who are good defensive catchers. I mean, the Giants said we're going to concentrate on defense. We're going to get better on defense this year. And so that would be their MO. That would be, backing it up if they had both those guys up. So I would love to see it. Bailey only has 9 at-bats in AAA so far, and he's no hits or anything. Just hasn't come up with anything yet, a couple of walks. But again, that's right now he's a defensive catcher who can hit and who can be a switch hitter. But we just need to see it at the AAA level first.
Yep. All right, let's talk about our new cocktail, the T2C. And Brad has mentioned this cocktail before. I'm not going to share it in our live feed here. I may make a video for the YouTube page just to let people know how we do it. But go to @Thompson to Clark on our Twitter, @BSPN_media on Instagram, and you can see the recipe. You can have one with us the next time we do it. And yeah, it's very spring. It's refreshingly spring. That's how I feel tasting it. But here's what I will say. Because the grapefruit stevia is so good, this is a dangerous one, because you can just you get that ice to melt a little bit, and it waters down the tequila a little bit, and you kind of forget that there's tequila in this thing. So just be careful. That would be my suggestion.
Yeah, that was the whole thing. So I started doing this probably, I don't know, maybe about 2 years ago. During the Rams and Bengals Super Bowl, I was trying to stay lighter and something that I can just kind of sip on.
Yeah.
I had 3 of these. But it took, Super Bowls are like 4 hours.
Yeah.
So it took me a long time to drink it and get through them. But yeah, I had 3. And because they're good. I mean, it's a good soda. What I really like about the grapefruit Zevia is that it's grapefruit citrus.
Yeah.
So it's got a little lime kick to it. So it's kind of limey, margarita-ish before you even add the tequila. And the tequila is fantastic. Terramana is fantastic. It's kind of my new go-to tequila.
Yeah.
And so it's a refresher. I'm a big Jimmy Buffett fan, and I don't drink margaritas because the sugar.
Sugar content's really high in a margarita.
That'll just put me over the edge. So this sucker with no sugar in it, just nice, crisp and clean. Hot days during the summer, listen to little Jimmy Buffett out on the porch, and I could sink a couple of these.
Oh yeah,
no problem.
we had for that Super Bowl, we had friends over, and we had mules.
Oh, there you go.
That was we threw a few mules back for sure. When
the Rams are in the Super Bowl, nobody's allowed to come over except for the brother-in-law who's also a Rams fan.
Oh yeah.
And if Harveen wants to come up, he's a Rams fan. He can come up too. If you wanted to come up, that's fine too, because you know football. But
Yeah.
other than that,
And I'm
it's
not
like
I'm not gonna hate on your team, man.
Oh, I don't no, but you would still enjoy the game.
Yeah,
I mean,
for sure.
you know, so but I don't what I don't want is like, you know, my parents have a Super Bowl party. I didn't go to the Super Bowl party that year because I was like, I'm not gonna sit around with a bunch of people, you know, when the Rams are losing or something happens, they're all looking at me waiting to see my reaction. Absolutely not. It's not happening.
Oh, that's hilarious. Okay, so let's finish off the show and what we are talking about here. So we mentioned Mexico City. I'll put the photo of Alyssa Nacken back up here.
There we go.
The
Knack.
It was like watching a high scoring college World Series game, which in some ways, if you're a fan of, you know, big flies and home runs, and we kind of called it last week. We looked at how big that park was, and we looked at the elevation. We're like, this is going to be worse than Colorado. Yeah. And I love the aspect of going out there. Now, the 49ers also played in Mexico City this year, so there was some culture there. The Giants go there. I love that aspect of it, where they go in and they learn the city and all that. I don't know if you can have a regular season game there, though, unless there's a different place to play, because exhibition, like if this was maybe the Bay Bridge series could happen in Mexico City, I'd be totally fine with that. Oh yeah. But when these games count and the statistics count, it didn't feel like a normal baseball game. And unfortunately for the Giants, they lost both of them. I would have said the same thing if the Giants won 2 and the Padres lost those games. It just didn't feel like these games should count because the baseball was so different. The umpires were different. The lack of replay was different. The Padres were having so many issues, at least on Saturday, with the pitch clock. It just felt like an exhibition game, and it was almost unfair to both teams that this game counted. Now, if you hit a jack or two in the game, you're like, oh, I'm glad my stats counted. And the Padres won, so yeah, you know, I'm sure that they'll take those 2 W's. But just that game, like the game that we're watching here, you know, Giants are beating Houston 2-1. That game feels more like what 2023 baseball feels like. And the Mexico City series felt more like a college baseball home run fest.
Yeah, absolutely. I hated it. I'm not gonna mince words. I absolutely hate it. I thought it was stupid. I don't think they should be doing that. You know what would be cool? And I don't mind. Do an all-star game there. Do the all-star game in Mexico City. You want to see some home runs? Send those sluggers down there for the all-star break. Have them just mash. That's what they should do, because again, you want to grow the game. Don't send 2 teams down there in a regular season game where, you know, Giants had some pretty good momentum leaving San Francisco going to Mexico City. Send all of the stars down there. I mean, that's the way to do it. And then everybody gets to see, you know, the big guns, Yordan Alvarez, you know, Fernando Tatis. They get to see the dudes, Aaron Judge. But yeah, I don't think they should be doing regular season games like that down there. It's you know, a lot of talk was about, well, what about, you know, pitcher stats? And now you go to arbitration and you have to look at, I mean, if the representatives for the players are smart, they're going to say, well, take out the Mexico City series.
Yeah.
Do we have another home run?
No, I think it was a foul ball.
Oh, just foul.
Pretty close. Conforto. He had a bad luck AB in the first inning. He had 2 on and whiffed. But that was almost a jock-like swing, but it wasn't a laser. It wasn't a laser like Jock's was.
But yeah, I don't think you know, if you have a good representative and you're a pitcher and you're going to arbitration, I think your good representative is going to say, yeah, my guy pitched 2 games in Mexico City at 7,200 feet. let's take those stats out of this and let's just look at the other stats. His ERA is 2.15, but you add those two games in, it's 4.73. So take that out and let's go with this. And I think the teams would agree too. But still, I thought it was silly because the travel is tough. I mean, I'm at 4,500 feet here in Reno. When we go to Tahoe, it's like 7,000 feet. That adjustment, it takes me a day or two to finally get some sleep, to finally feel good at night, to finally feel good during the day. And that's only like 3,000, 2,500 feet difference. You're talking San Francisco is sea level, and now you're going up 7,200 feet. Those guys had to be just hating life the first day. I can guarantee you that. It was probably not fun. You get headaches, you get dry, you can't sleep. So anyways, thanks, Manfred. Don't do it again. I know you're doing it again next year, Colorado and Houston, but please don't send us again. That's all I can say. Did not enjoy it.
Yeah. So what do we got upcoming? So as we've been mentioning, Houston, they're in Houston right now. Giants are up 2-1, currently in the top of the fourth as we are watching the game. They have and Houston themselves are, they're playing a couple games above 500. So this is not, they're not playing like the champs that you would think the champs would play, but they're behind Texas in the AL West, and Texas is slowly putting together a pretty good opening stretch here. 17-11. They're plus 72 in the run differential, second in the American League, only to Tampa, who is 23-6 still. Jeez.
Wow.
And
that's
I mean,
the exact opposite record of the A's.
It is, absolutely.
It is. They're 6-23. They got a walk-off yesterday, win number 6. Hey.
And if you look at the reason why I think Texas's run differential is so impressive is because other teams like Pittsburgh has a better record. They're 20-9 in the NL Central, but their run differential is only a plus 48. So you're a plus 72. So you're really stretching out some of these teams, and you're scoring a lot of runs. And they're second only to Tampa in runs scored in all of baseball right now. So in our division, still Arizona and LA, both, their run differentials no biggie, but the Giants are slowly still in the minus. They need to kind of even that up here. Go ahead.
I saw a stat today. We are plus 5 in home runs.
Mm-hmm.
So that's home runs hit versus home runs given up. You change that and you get a little bit deeper and bigger chasm there, the Giants could have a much better record. That's the problem. They're hitting tons of bombs, but they're also giving up a lot of home runs. So that's hurting right now.
Yeah. So what is their schedule like for the rest of this week? So they have 3 here in Houston, and then they come home on Friday. They come home against Milwaukee. So they have 3 Friday night, Saturday, early evening games Saturday. So shadows might be tough there. And then a day game on Sunday. And Milwaukee is also having a really good start to the season. They're 18-10, just behind Pittsburgh. And so, they're coming in, and they're gonna be a tough out for the Giants now. If the Giants can get 1 or 2 here, and they just got a gift sacrifice bunt that the pitcher fumbled.
Beautiful bunt by Sable.
Yeah. It's kind of popped it up and short hopped the pitcher.
What are you talking about? It was perfectly placed.
I had one of those in the show today. I'll tell you.
Did you really?
Yeah, it was rough. So Milwaukee's going to come into town, and they're playing good baseball. So the Giants, they have their work cut out for them. They're not playing the Cardinals this week, right? The Cardinals kind of came in at the perfect time to play the Giants, and so they're going to have to play well to beat 2. If they have 6 games this week, to go 3-3, I think is favorable. To win 4 out of the 6, that means you're playing really good baseball against 2 pretty good teams.
Yeah, it's you just have to shake off Mexico City. That's pretty much what you have to do. winning this game tonight in Houston, they got a good shot. 2 runners on, 2-1 lead in the fourth. If they can win this game tonight, you kind of gather a little bit of momentum back because who do we have going? So we have Strickland today.
I'll find it. You keep talking.
Yeah, I think Webb is throwing in the third game. But anyway, I think the Giants have a good chance to actually win this series in Houston.
Sclafani is tomorrow.
That's right, Desclafani and then Webby. Altuve is still out. He's going to be out this series for sure. He doesn't come back till June. So they have a chance. I mean, the one time you see the Houston Astros this year, it's without Altuve. Jordan is kind of limping around too a little bit. So the Giants have a chance to do some damage and win a series here. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting week. You say they come home for Milwaukee, correct?
Yes, they are home for Milwaukee.
Yeah, so that's good. That's good again because you took 3 out of 4 from St. Louis before you left home to go to Mexico City. So home is kind of a fun place to play right now. If you can get more than 25,000 fans,
and look,
that's got to change. Yeah.
They winning those 3 out of 4 from the Cardinals means that they are playing 500 baseball at home, which is better. Like they started off the season, losing some weird games, and that was also Mexico City where they take a lead and the bullpen just can't hack it. I just wanted to, before we end it, because we got through a lot of stuff in not a lot of time. I read Jeff Young, a friend of the show, Jeff Young, who was on the show last year. He was our guy who once the lockout ended, we was like, hey, Jeff, you want to come on and let's talk about all the stuff that's going to happen. So Jeff Young had a comment yesterday saying the Giants have too many guys in the bullpen who are just sort of middle to long guys. And so what happens is any time that the score is close, they have to bring in who should be their late inning guys. But because they have all these middle and long relievers on the team, the late inning guys are actually pitching earlier in the game. And so they can't get to Doval in the 9th. They're getting to Doval in the 8th.
Right.
Taylor Rogers hasn't been great. I think they expected him to be possibly an 8th inning guy. His brother also could be an 8th inning guy. But you're having to see Doval come in the 8th inning now, 2 games, at least that I've seen. So what do you think about Jeff's comments about kind of the bullpen? Because they're like, we were talking about how if you have 7 starting pitchers, do you really have like, a good staff? Can you have a good staff if you have 7 starters? But by having 7 starters, you probably have a lack of late inning relievers. Like you can't have both, right? You can't have both,
right?
This great back end of the bullpen if you have these long guys who you're counting on to help the starting staff.
Yeah, and I saw comments earlier than that last week that talked about, well, we've got Cole Waits in AAA, and we've got other guys, RJ Dabovich. I'm just looking at some of the names that people had mentioned. The problem is Cole Waits was one of those guys that last year was an awesome sensation late in the season, cool revelation, came out of nowhere, was pitching awesome. He was a draft pick that made it up to the majors. He's pitched in 9 2/3 innings this season, and he's walked 12 in 9 2/3 innings, given up 11 hits, walked 12, and has given up 10 runs and only struck out 10. His ERA is 9.31. I don't think you want to bring him up and trust him with the 7th inning at this point. Another guy like Dabovich, he's pitched in 2 2/3 innings. He's walked 6, given up 3 hits, 6 runs, a 20.25 ERA. So like you said, it's right now, it's the lack of late inning relievers. Luke Jackson is a guy that the Giants signed for a couple of seasons, but he is coming off of Tommy John. He's starting to throw. He's going to be a guy who's going to be ready down the line. I think the Giants are going to be better off with a wealth of late inning fireball relievers mid to late of the season. So right now they're just kind of getting by with what they have. And I totally understand it because you got Taylor and Tyler Rogers. And then you've got Brebbia and you've got Duvall. I mean, that's 4. So you could really use those guys to bridge somewhere the 7th, 8th, and 9th, or the 8th and 9th. But the problem is Sean Jelly, Jacob Junis, they're hitting hiccups too. So if you're using those guys to get you from the 5th to the 7th, a lot of times you get into a jam around the 6th inning and you're like, if I don't stop the bleeding now, if Kapler says I don't stop the bleeding now, I'm going to have a hard time even getting to Duvall in the 9th because we won't have the lead anymore. So I think there's just bad luck going on all around at this time of the season. The guys they don't have AAA players to turn to right now. They're going to have to start looking waiver wire or trades or something else down the line. I think that the Giants could pick up maybe just one more hard throwing reliever, maybe a lefty, like a Mac Cheese type of guy, Jake McGee.
What's Mac Cheese doing right?
He retired. He officially retired.
On.
Yeah, I know.
He's back.
He's out of the league, man. But if the Giants could find a guy like that and make a trade to get a lefty in the bullpen later, I think they're going to be in a better situation. And we'll see what they do here because Stripling, what is he at? 47 pitches, not even through 4 innings yet. So I mean, he's cruising along. Can we get him to the 7th? Yeah, you can get him to the 7th. And if you have a lead,
at the very least the 6th, if he's still throwing this well, he's throwing pretty well today.
That's the ideal. That's the old school ideal situation. Giants just cannot get their relievers without throwing 80 pitches in 4 innings. They're just kind of having a tough time with that right now.
Yeah. All right. We're going to be checking this game out. Currently, Giants up 2-1 in the bottom of the 4th. Cross your fingers. And for those of you who are listening on the podcast version, you're like, why are these guys even talking about this game? This game's been over for 10 hours.
Well, that's why you got to listen to us and watch us live. Got to hang with us during the games, man.
So, like I mentioned, show 150. And for, this show started during the pandemic of all time.
It did, yeah.
A lot of podcasts did start during the pandemic, though. So here's to another 150. Let's keep doing this.
Cheers.
Let's keep doing it. Let's keep having fun with this. Win or lose, keep talking Giants baseball. So for Brad, I am Double G. We will see you when we see you. Peace out.
Peace.